So we want to change the game for people who are coming up, for people who are trying to earn a living creating their art, because we believe in the art that comes out of Lubbock, Texas. So that's what this is about. We've got an incredible panel today. I'm thrilled. I'm friends with everybody on this panel. This is really cool. This makes me so happy. What I'd like to do is I'd actually like to go around the room, and I'd just like to have you introduce yourselves. Just so everybody knows, there is a switch at the bottom of this here fine microphone. If you can't be heard, that's why.
All right. Can y'all hear me?
I'm gonna sit closer.
All right. I'm Joy Harris.
Oh, tell them what you do, too. Yeah. I mean, everybody knows you, Joy, but you know.
All right. I'm Joy Harris. I'm a local musician that's based out of Lubbock. Most people know me as a bass player, but I do other things and work for a lot of nonprofits.
I'm Jeremy Couture. I'm also a local musician, and I also run a music festival in town called Lubbock Live, Festival for the Arts.
I'm Daryl Holland, owner of the Cactus Theater and other various enterprises around town, but we just have a good time, promoting local talent as well as the touring at the Cactus Theater, not far from here.
My name is Jenny Dale Lord. I'm a traveling and local musician, Texas recording artist. You can find my music on Texas Country Red Dirt Radio, and I've been blessed to play music full-time for more years than I care to tell you.
My name is Jackie Bober, and I'm the Director of Cultural Facilities for the City of Lubbock, which includes the Buddy Holly Center, the Silent Wings Museum, and the Garden and Arts Center.
Hi, I'm Lisa Thomason. I wear two hats. I'm actually the director of the Lubbock Memorial Civic Center and Moonlight Musicals Amphitheater, and I'm also the staff liaison to Civic Lubbock, Inc.
All right. Fantastic, guys. So I'd like to kind of go around. I want to talk with each of you individually, because one of the things we want to talk about today is how musicians can get gigs, how they can sustain gigs, what your different organizations offer in that regard. And also, after this, we're going to have a little bit of a networking time period. Ryan Spivey and Jeremy are going to perform for us. There's food out front, so we will feed you as well. Just give you a chance to meet folks. And then we have Henry Glasscock from the William Morris Entertainment Company that is going to be speaking as well, the largest booking agency in the country. Unfortunately, his flight on American was canceled this morning. We all know the pandemic world that we live in, but he has graciously agreed to be here by Zoom for us this afternoon. So I'm going to start off with you, Daryl. Let's pass the mic on down. Thank you, guys. It'll be a little bit of a, musical chairs. You own the Cactus Theater, which is just an iconic theater in Lubbock, Texas. Brings in phenomenal music, national touring acts, local, regional acts, all of that stuff. Tell us a little bit about how you do booking over at the theater. What does that look like at the Cactus?
Well, I appreciate that. We trying to carry on a long tradition. The Cactus has long been known for showcasing local talent. Still doing that. I purchased the theater 5 years ago. A lot of people still don't know that. They'll come in and say, "Where's Don Caldwell? We're old friends." Well, So, but I still work with Don and the local talent, trying to, nurture that. It's always been kind of an incubator stage for there's some little kids literally that have grown up there and starting to their journey right now, and that fuels the talent, the future talent pool. And so we're trying to keep that going, and so we kind of operate a little bit on a rental basis where I rent it for local productions, and at the same time I'm booking national, regional, international acts that we can bring in, and we want to really always emphasize the variety. In other words, you mentioned the airline situation. Tonight we were supposed to have, and last night, a Frank Sinatra tribute, which is very different for Lubbock, So going back to the 30s, 40s, classic crooning type thing, bringing in the number one, Sinatra artist, tribute artist in the country, has a residency in Atlantic City. You got to be good if you're singing Frank Sinatra in Frank's backyard. So that kind of gives you the idea of the level of talent that we want to bring in. We don't do all tribute shows by any means. We do a lot of headline, nationally known names. We also Jenny Dale and a lot of the various people around town have played the stage either as an opener or on a combo show. We've had Jason Nutt Group and various other things. I try to infuse as much as I can with local. Joey's played our stage many times. And so that's what it is kind of a combination of rentals, which I picked up a couple this week, and then me reaching out to booking agents like Henry Glasscock or whoever, and finding things that work, things that are routed. That's the key word in our business, and some of you guys know what I'm talking about. The connecting the dots, the routing is critical to getting the good deals. And you can bring somebody in on a one-off and pay a lot of money, or you can schedule when they're touring. And, we do a lot of block booking with some other independent theaters in Texas. I've formulated relationships with them so that we can go to an agency and say, hey, how'd you like to play here in Fredericksburg and Houston, and we give them a roadmap. And so some of it is done as a collective booking approach. Some of it I just reach out. A lot of times I'm reaching out. And then, of course, those relationships, they bear fruit later on. You get those emails from people saying, hey, I got so-and-so. I got one just a while ago, checking coming in here. A group we've worked with several times. Hey, we're coming back in March. You got a space for us. So those relationships, just like in any business or anything that you do, relationships are the key. And I would say that the challenge is also trying to break through some of that ceiling sometimes when you're dealing with an agency that maybe doesn't know you or doesn't know your capabilities, or are you financially sound? Where are you located? Who have you worked with? They want to protect their artists, at a certain level. At some level, they're just like happy to get the gig, right? But at some level, it really is, are you going to showcase my artist in a way that we and the artists expect? And so that's kind of how we do it.
That's fantastic. So for a regional or local artist, how do they find you? How do you find them, probably more importantly, when choosing like an opening act?
Sure. Well, I try to, stay up, on the local scene as much as I can. I go, and I'm eating several restaurants around town, and I see these guys and gals playing, and so I familiarize myself. A lot of times they're reaching out. Jordan, here in the audience, he reached out to me, a number of times. We've had him on 2 or 3, 4 times. I forget now, but as an opening act. It has to make sense, obviously, the pairing. I got a call yesterday. We're bringing in Texas Hill in November, some guys that won The Voice and Idol and these types of things, and so they've formed this new band. And so we had them in May, trying to kind of build that. People don't know that name, so we literally have to work it and just convince people to come and try to build them up in the market. Well, just yesterday I got an email, said, hey, here Texas Hill's coming back. It's a local artist. Could we bring our band and open for them? Sounds good, because that local familiarity, they have their own little fan base, right? You guys all have folks that follow you. And so that's good for ticket sales. If we can put a local act on, that it enhances, this touring act. And in many cases, in this case, more people will know the local act than know this new act, because they're just formulating, right? So there's a dynamic and a psychology that I, kind of put into my booking approach, because I know that certain things might actually enhance and make sense. And we did the same thing a couple of weeks ago. We had the Isaacs out of Nashville, newest members of the Grand Ole Opry, very well known in the gospel and country and Americana circles, bluegrass. But folks down here, unless you're into that genre, might not know them. So what did we do? I thought, how can I give a local act an opportunity and maybe capitalize on that familiarity in the marketplace to pair with them, because the big acts, typically they don't want to do an intermission. Okay, but our audiences are used to an intermission, and intermission provides concession sales, which, by the way, we're all in the popcorn and Coke and other beverage business, not just selling tickets. So we need to create that intermission. So that's a big part, to answer your question in a long-winded way. The reason we have a lot of opening acts is to create that intermission, because when the headliner gets on stage, they want to go straight through. They don't want to stop midway through, whether it be vocal conditioning or, just the flow of the show. So we want to have a local opener if we can, if it makes sense.
I think that's fantastic, that what you just mentioned is the fact that it has to make sense fiscally to you. It has to make sense show-wise. Like, if great, I have this opening act, I can now have an intermission so I can make my theater. I mean, you have to make money. You have to survive.
Yeah.
Yeah,
you have to. You have to think of all those dynamics, and if it lines up just right. Like I say, for the Isaac show, we put Blackwater Draw, this group of kids that literally grew up on that stage. They're starting to make some inroads. They're 13, 14, and 16 years old, so they're just still kids, right? But it made sense because all the grandparents and cousins and folks that follow those kids, they want to come see them open for a big name, right? So that you just kind of, your head can kind of put that together, that's going to be a certain amount of ticket sales putting that local group on, especially a bunch of kids. People love to see kids, and they'll buy tickets.
Is there, last question for you here, and then we'll move on. Is there a certain number of butts in seats that you're thinking when that happens?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I know that may be a tough question because that probably varies.
Well, you have to craft the deal, right? You have to do the numbers. You got to say, well, especially these touring acts, okay, if I'm paying $7,500 for this act or $10,000 for this act, how does that relate to I've got 383 seats? If I tier it a lot of times. We don't just do one price because, as we all know, people up front will pay a little bit more. So I can get 3 or 4 rows at this tier, the next tier, and you do the math, you calculate it all out when you're making the deal with the agency, right? And so it's that, a lot of it's good guesswork. I mean, it's just shooting from the hip. I mean, to be in this business, you got to have a lot of gamble in you, okay? So it's not just something you just sign up for and just start booking talent and hey, it's all off to the races. You got to be pretty much, you got to have a little bit of riverboat gambler in you. And have an idea what it can return, and never shoot for, well, I've got to sell it out to make the nut, as they say, or to make it work. There's a formula, and it's not always tried and, or set in stone. It's a tried and true method of having a feel for that artist. Have they played the room before? Or is it brand new? Is it first time through? And you can get a better deal a lot of times on a first time through. Hey, I don't know what this market will support. Let's, your number's 8,000. Let's try 5 and see how it works, So there's a lot of negotiating that goes into it. And, a lot of it, you got to wade through a lot of mud to figure it out.
Totally makes sense. Thank you for those insights. It's important to see it from the theater's perspective, not just the artist's perspective.
Sure. Well,
because we all believe that the art we're making is perfect for your venue. Okay. Right?
It's a business. That's why
right.
that's the whole thing is they don't just say the music, they say the music business, because while the art is fantastic and that's what we all go to see, there's touring, there's buses, there's personnel, stagehands, lighting operators, sound guys, all of these things. It's a business. And so we want to, as venue owners, I'm speaking from my perspective, I want to be as fair as I can to the artist, and I want to be fair to the patrons. I may be one of the few guys out there that cares whether or not the patron's paying too much money. I mean, it seems like a lot of times it's just like, how much money can we get out of this market? And I just don't believe that. I try to treat the patrons right, my staff right, the artist, and I worry about me last, which may sound funny, but, that's the way I operate.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Daryl. So, Jenny, Daryl just mentioned something. He mentioned something a second ago about relationships.
That you and I talk about all the time.
All the time.
Yes.
Jenny and I work
thought the same
together a
thing.
lot. We're making our 5th record
fifth
together, I
record,
believe.
yeah.
So there is a little bit of a history. We've known each other for, I think, 4 years. Or 30.
30. It's 30, but that's okay.
Yeah, it's all good. Jenny, one of the things that I see with you as an artist is that you are really great at taking care of the people around you, your fans. You think about the people that you're booking with. There's a level of caring, and not to make it too fancy, but there's a love in the middle of that.
You know I
Okay?
cry easily, so watch
I know,
out.
so yeah, but can you tell me kind of your approach? Because you're a fully independent artist, okay? You manage this all yourself, and you stay busier than anyone I know, nearly, okay? So tell me kind of your approach.
Oh, honestly, it's something I've never really given a lot of thought to. But as far as relationships go, it's just really easy if you really genuinely love people. And Daryl hit the nail on the head. This business really is all about relationships, whether it's someone you just met, whether it's someone that you want to keep giving you a job. Just be nice to people and be respectful and show up and do your job and be fair. And just if people feel valued and feel loved, they will give you the world, even if they're not intending to. And it's reciprocal, you know. I like to think that I do the same thing. It's funny, I play live shows all the time, and I'm like this. I'm so nervous. I'm like,
It's a lot harder speaking
oh
than
my gosh,
singing,
this is
right?
crazy. Absolutely. Well, there's also usually whiskey at the shows, but no, just you know what? Once I realized music was the one thing I wanted to do, unless you're at the top tier, you're not going to make a lot of money. So you have to work a lot. And as long as you're willing to work hard and build relationships and get your foot in the door and take chances, you know, just take a risk. You may never have played a venue before, but you want to. Well, reach out to them. Be afraid. Don't be afraid to hear no. Sometimes you get to hear yes. And, you know, just try and do it. And if you really love it, I mean, sometimes it does feel like work, but even my worst days are better than some people's best days, you know. So I'm just very blessed.
Absolutely. So when you are approaching a new venue, how do you do it?
Well,
tell me your approach.
Yeah, well, typically I just I send an email or I figure out where I want to go or where I'm going to be. And for somebody who's actually really afraid of talking to people, if you didn't figure that out, email is a really good way to kind of reach out without, you know, sounding like a fool on the telephone or being nervous. I couldn't even order a pizza when I was a kid, so you'd be amazed like how much I've grown. But just send them an email, kind of, you know, break the ice and send them your EPK or a sample track or anything like that, and just kind of let them know who you are and what you've done. And you know, don't make it too informal. So a lot of people don't like it. It's not an English paper, but at the same time, be informative. And 9 times out of 10, people write you back. So at least that's been my experience.
Fantastic. And follow up.
Yeah, sometimes people just get busy. Don't take it personally. That's one thing I've tried to teach myself is a lot of things that don't go your way, it's not personal. It's just the way that things happen. And we're all busy and we all forget. And sometimes I text somebody back a week later and I'm like, I'm so sorry. So it's kind of the same thing, but.
You know, I think that's a really important thing. One thing that somebody gave me as advice in the business years ago is if you are trying to reach somebody that has something you want, a venue, I'd like to play at your venue, okay? The venue's gonna be super busy. So one of the smartest things when you follow up is to say, hey, I sent this to you. I know you've gotta be really far behind. When would be convenient? You know, give them the out because they're running behind, I guarantee. And if you give them the pass, they feel awful that they probably haven't emailed you back yet. So I think that that's a really important thing, just to realize that that's a human on the other side.
Right.
Absolutely. Who has those very same problems that we have.
That's exactly right.
You know?
Exactly right.
Yeah. Thank you, Jenny. That's
Thank you.
incredible. Okay, Lisa. So you're with Civic Lubbock. You manage the Civic Center. There's all this stuff going on that's involved with Select a Seat. There's all these moving parts to this. Tell us a little bit about the opportunities that are involved in the Civic Center. There's many, many different organizations that work there that hire musicians, and kind of how does all of that work for you guys? Is it mostly the organizations come to you? Is it something where you guys ever look for talent like that specifically? How does that work for you guys with Civic Lubbock?
Okay, so well, with the Civic Center, we are a rental facility. So the promoters generally come to us and they do all the gambling that Daryl was talking about earlier. As the city, we don't really get to play with the citizens' money. They don't like that. So as Civic Lubbock, they have various things that they're doing, various projects that they're doing. They offer various grant programs. There's a new grant program, most recently a live music performance grant program that actually hotels were eligible to apply for this first year. And our goal was to get you guys more opportunities. So that's actually going to council on Tuesday. So for their approval, because they do get the opportunity to approve that or decline it, let's hope for the best. So that's one way. So, but with that, we have the Entertainment Lubbock Committee, and they have the Lubbock Music Now CD that they've been doing. They just released the 6th album, and that went out October the 1st. Many of you people in this room are on it again, and thank you very much for that. So that comes out, you get to apply to be in that. The members and ex-members of the Grammy Board actually do all the judging, so it's experts, not folks like me. You don't want me judging. So other people who know what they're doing get to do that. So something new that's coming is that the Arts Alliance and Civic Lubbock is going to be taking over that live music stage during the Arts Festival. So all the details on that are not quite out yet. That is just coming. So I don't know if it will be Lubbock Music Now musicians or if it will be a little bit of everybody that gets the opportunity for that. As far as other entities, usually the promoters pick the artists that come on, who they're willing to do their gambling on. I don't really get asked often about local musicians. They seek out other folks in the industry that they know, but I'm happy to pass on y'all's names anytime I'm asked.
That is fantastic. And yeah, I'm so glad that you mentioned the Lubbock Now CD, because that's such an incredible thing, and an incredible way that Civic Lubbock supports local musicians. And then they do a show with that, and it's a pretty great feather in the cap for the musicians who get to be on it. There's a few on this panel that have been on that. And I just really thank you guys for doing that, because I think that's incredible. Can you tell us a little bit about the application process, or when that happens? When do people need to apply for that? If there's I know you probably don't have a specific date for next year.
Yeah,
yet,
we don't have that specific date. This past year, it was in May.
Yeah.
I would expect it to be just a little bit earlier. I think that felt a little late.
Yeah.
I think it's usually a little earlier in the spring. But all of that will be on the Civic Lubbock's website, and all of that application process, and you send in a sample of your music and fill out that. I have a copy of it if anybody would like to see it.
Yeah. And you guys do a lot of press with that. It's a pretty big deal.
Yes, and I think Stacy sends it out too, so she helps us out quite a bit, getting all that information out.
That's because she's awesome.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, so can you tell us just a little bit more about the hotel grant? Knowing that it's pending city council approval, what will that provide for musicians if and when that comes through?
So the idea was to get more dates. So anybody who's currently has a program was eligible to apply, saying they want to add. So if they're doing Friday and Saturday already, maybe they want to do a Sunday brunch or a Thursday night. So they come in and they say, yes, we're willing to match any money that you give us. So if we were to give them $1,000, they're going to come in with that $1,000 also. It goes directly to the artist. So the hotel pays the artist, and then we reimburse the hotel, so that all of the money goes into y'all's pockets.
That's incredible. Thank you guys for doing that. Yeah, guys. We're sitting in the middle of a change in Lubbock, Texas. The way the city is supporting the arts, the way the community is supporting it is changing dramatically. And man, that's just incredible that you guys are doing that. It's so wonderful to see. And as someone who works with artists, is an artist, and advocates for them, thank you. That's
I will pass that on.
Oh, please do. That's awesome. Thank you so much, Lisa. And I see Holly came in. You want to come on up? Everybody give a hand to Holly Fields here. She's with Buddy Holly Hall. Come on, you can sit by me. You are all good, girl. You want to tell everybody a little bit about what you do?
Sure. Hi, everybody. I'm Holly Fields. I'm with the Buddy Holly Hall here in Lubbock. It's so awesome to be there. And I do all the marketing, the director of marketing and sales, but I also book the shows along with our general manager, Charlton Northington. So together we are booking all the shows at the Buddy Holly Hall. So it's been quite interesting opening up during COVID, working with these tours. Had to reroute at least 3,500 times. I think I saw on our calendar, we changed our calendar 3,500 times. Trying to like figure out Broadway and giving them the sense of peace being in the building with our COVID policies, which we have immense policies and we gear it towards each tour. So it's pretty intense, and I apologize for being late. We have 3 shows starting tonight. We've got one Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. We've got a TTU Symphonics one tonight. We've got Kristen Chenoweth tomorrow, and we've got Styx on Sunday. So I was running around like pretty crazy, but it's exciting.
That is phenomenal. I love it. I love it. Well, tell you what, Holly, I've got some questions for you here in a second. We're going to go around, but man, I'm so glad you were able to make it. That's great.
Thank you so much.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so Jeremy. Yeah, come on up. And Lindsay's here too. Yay, Lindsay from Luca, everybody. I didn't see you sneak in. It's good to see you. Oh, okay, fantastic. Well, yeah, you are. We'll do the introduction here in a second. I got some questions for you too. So, Jeremy, you're an independent musician.
Yes.
And you play cello. That's how I first met you. And you're incredibly adept at that. Really musical. So you've played with string quartets, all of this stuff. And then you became a singer-songwriter and started writing songs, released an album, which is really great. Thanks for sharing that with me. By the way, I did have a chance to listen to it.
Awesome,
The
thanks.
vocals are stunning on it. You did a really great job.
Appreciate it.
But you weren't satisfied just being a singer-songwriter. You love that, but you decided to do something else. What did you do?
Right, so I started a music and arts festival, called Lubbock Live Festival for the Arts. Yeah, yes, he's wearing the T-shirt.
And it was a really wonderful event. I got to attend it. I thought it was really, really cool. What was the motivation behind it?
Sure, well, really, it was getting into the music scene myself when I was trying to be a singer-songwriter. I went to researched all the different shows that were going on, went to all of them, stayed till the end, introduced myself to the musicians. And I think I spent a year kind of just doing that. And then eventually someone was like, oh, hey. I mean, I played at Blue Light, I believe, too. But someone was like, hey, you want to play something? And then that kind of got the ball rolling. But in the middle of doing all of that, I realized just how awesome the music scene is here, local scene. And I would be sitting here in this venue listening to this band melt my face off. And I would like turn and there's like 4 or 5 people in the crowd. And it kind of, well, frankly made me mad. It's like the scene here is so great. And as I was in the middle of finding this scene, all of the different art scenes I feel like are connected. Like not just music, art, dance, theater. It's all of those same people are going to be around the same places. And I realized that not only was the music scene amazing, but all of the art scenes were amazing. And so I had this idea of creating an event that I could bring everybody all together and make it really, really easy for Lubbock people to come and see it and go, oh, look at all of this really awesome, high-quality stuff. I'm going to follow these guys. Oh, Ronnie and the Redwoods, man, those guys are great. I'm going to go. I saw them at Lubbock Live, so now I'm going to go follow them and do this. And that was kind of the whole goal behind it.
It's incredible. So how does a local musician up and coming become a part of that? How do you find out about the musicians? How do they get in contact with you to be a part of that? Because it's a great event. And it's really cool because it's Lubbock music centric. That's what it's about. So how do they do that?
So LubbockLiveFestival.com is our website. And you can, there's a I think it's called artist application. Really, you just click on the button and you can send works and ask. Plus, also, I'm always around because I play for a living. Like, yeah, playing is my job. So I am around and listening to people all the time too.
So once again, that relationship thing. You know, one of the things that you'll find about everybody on this panel is they're all incredibly approachable. Go up to them, talk to them, email them, make phone calls. I mean, that relationship, it may not work out yet to play at the Cactus or to be a part of the Lubbock Now CD, but in the future, it could be for you. And I think that's really, really important. Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. So, Jackie, you're up next. So, Buddy Holly Center, which is one of my favorite places here. I've actually had artwork displayed there. I've
Yes, you
performed
have.
on your summer showcase before, and I love it. You guys do some amazing stuff. Specifically, the summer showcase is a really cool event. Can you tell us a little bit about that, how that came about, and how that's booked, or how does
Sure.
that happen?
The Summer Showcase concert series actually has a long history, 20 years. This was our 20th year of doing it, and it sort of started out as a Sunday afternoon jazz in the courtyard kind of thing when the center first opened in 2000. I think that first summer, the center opened in 1999, September of 1999. So it was that next summer that we started having live music in the courtyard. And it has grown to a staple that our visitor base, we have a definite audience that comes every year. And we're in total mourning in 2020 when they couldn't, and we had to cancel that. But we picked it up again this year. We saw pretty much the same crowds that we had seen in years past. For us, it's an exciting thing to do. It is an event that takes place every Thursday evening from like mid-May to mid-August. We invite artists to come and perform from 5:30 to 7:30 on those Thursday evenings. They get a 15, 20-minute break. Some of them, if we're being chased by bad weather, they'll just play through as long as they can. But it's a wonderful thing, and what we do that is different from what Daryl does is that we do not charge admission. Staff works really hard to gather donations and sponsorships so that we can pay the artist. This year we had to pay for security. We pay for sound techs if we need it, and the event is free to the public. So we also include oftentimes some activities for children because, children don't always stay in their seats. They need to be up and busy. So we try to give them something to do as well. We were honored to welcome Joy this year and her band. Jenny has been a perennial favorite for us. And for us, we usually sit down as a staff in November and start looking at the previous concert season, what was well attended, what sort of audience feedback did we get. We try to then look at the calendar for the following year and start plotting out the bands that we want to invite back. We do include perennial favorites. We try to be very careful about creating a mix of genres. So we'll have anything from Americana to rock to country to, this year we had some bluegrass, to soul and funk and blues and jazz and mariachi as well, yes. So I think probably the only genre we haven't tackled is a symphonic expose and maybe some rap too. So, but we try to balance it. And while we invite some repeat performers every year, we try to invite at least one or two new acts to get them worked into the rotation as well. And it's been a wonderful thing for us to do.
So I think that's so incredible. I think in either your first or second year in a band I was in way back in the day. And one of the things that you guys did that I thought was really, really wonderful is you recognize that you don't want to compete with the other venues in the Depot District, which would be the Cactus or any of the bars down there or whatever. And you want to be able to pay those musicians but not take away another gig. So you guys set it as an early gig so that they can go do another gig.
Absolutely. Something that we are very mindful of that we don't often offer a top dollar stipend, but we try to make it so that perhaps they can pick up another gig later that night, or we even have groups that come in from out of town that will line up multiple things for them to do to make that weekend travel worth their while. It's something that we continue to be mindful of. We also, there are some groups that will bring in their own sound equipment, and they're perfectly welcome to do that. But for ease of travel and setup, we also have our own sound equipment that we set up, and we pay people that know what they're doing to operate it because it just sounds a whole lot better. We have a 20-channel mixer and all the accoutrements that go with it, and it sounds really nice if you can drown out the birds in our trees. They usually sit up there and be quiet or they move on, but it's a good thing.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys for doing that. It's a really, really wonderful event. I love it. Okay. All right. Well, Lindsay, let's go to you. All right. So, Lindsay, thank you for hosting this today, by the way.
Yes,
Lindsay is official title Executive Director, correct?
Yes.
Of the Louise Hopkins Underwood Center, which we happen to be sitting in. And this happens to be one of my favorite places to play in this town, right in this very room. It's lovely. Mm-hmm. You guys do a tremendous amount for the music industry here in Lubbock. You guys have an outdoor stage, you do shows here, you're involved heavily in First Friday Art Trail. Tell us a little bit about what you guys do booking-wise and all of that.
So we do First Friday Art Trail. It's been a big push in our last couple years to have programming on our outdoor plaza. We put that plaza in 2016, and then just like Jackie said, we started buying some sound equipment so that we could have more bands on the plaza. And we noticed how popular it was and how much people really enjoyed being outside, not only for bands, but we'll also have like dance groups that come through. So do a lot of performances on that plaza stage, especially during First Friday. So every month that it is not raining and just too bitterly cold to do that, we try and have at least one full band outside on the plaza. And the way we book that is through our programs coordinator, Jordan Canal, and she was really supposed to be in this seat today, but she's out of town on vacation, so we let her take vacation sometimes because she earns them. But
Yeah, you have to do that once in a while.
So she is just constantly scouting bands. She will, she'll like jump on Jeremy's Instagram or Joy's Instagram and see who they're following and who they're looking at. And she looks at a lot of hashtags that are in Lubbock to seek out new bands because, again, we really like to show a lot of different genres at First Friday. And so she's constantly just looking for bands. So let her know that you're there. If you're a band that wants to play, definitely reach out. You can always tag us in your Instagram post if you've got a new song or something. We do a lot through social media, and so that's a great way to catch us. We also do our West Texas Battle of the Bands, which is a way that we learn about new bands. That's a really fun program that Scott's been involved with. He's judged for us and offered things in the awards package, and you have too, Daryl. It's a great thing, especially for new bands that want to get out there. You submit an original song. We've moved that program to June now, so those song submissions, we'll be asking for those probably around April. So look for that to come out. You submit a song, it goes through a round of judging, and then there's a round of judging during First Friday Art Trail that the public can submit, their choices, and then we do a live concert with the top 3 or 4 bands, and then we pick the West Texas Battle of the Band winners, and the top 2 winners, first and second place, both get gigs at First Friday. So that's also a good way to get involved.
Yeah, it's a phenomenal program, and I really love it because you'll see everything from pros who are working to 15-year-olds, and sometimes the 15-year-olds win. And that's pretty
Yeah.
cool. You know?
And sometimes when you're like Jeremy, you have to find a band because you're a one-person gig most of the time. And so Jeremy put together a band to compete in Battle of the Bands. So
I love it.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate what you guys do. You mentioned the social media component. Okay, I think that's really important. I'm glad that you brought that up because that is a way that you discover new talent. And I'm sure all of you that book, that's a huge component of it, is that you're looking online. So having a strong online presence, I assume that's important.
Very important. So yeah, that is a great way to get heard. It's really hard when someone says, "Hey, have you heard this band before?" And then you go to look for them, and you can't find them anywhere. So at least having an Instagram and putting up some samples of your music on there, I mean, that's important. Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thanks so much.
Of course.
Joy. Yeah, which your name is so appropriate, by the way. I just got to tell you, because it gives me joy every time we get to hang out. Which we hung out yesterday and recorded gongs and
Yes.
all this wonderful percussion and stuff. That was so fun. Obviously, you're a perennial favorite in Lubbock. You're a brilliant musician, but that doesn't make it sometimes any easier to get the gig. You still have to work really hard for that. Tell me a little bit about your process, about how you did that coming up. I mean, you've been a hoss at working. I mean, you have done this for years. So how did you approach that?
Okay, so luckily I grew up here, and Lubbock is awesome. Started music when I was young, piano lessons, all of that, did band, studied music at Tech. What you guys were talking about with the relationships is key. So I'm based out of Lubbock. Kind of how I'm operating these days is what I'm working towards is being in Lubbock probably about 60% of the time and the rest of the time touring, which I was doing before the shutdown.
Before the pandemic.
But relationships are key. So as far as my local approach, I usually try to keep about 8 venues on my calendar that I rotate through. And, just have about a couple of dates a month or so with 8. A good friend of mine, Terry McEldowney, who, if you know him, he needs thoughts right now. But he has his Facebook page called I Love Lubbock Music. He's really good about posting who's playing where. Right now, we need to do that ourselves. Just, if you haven't seen anything, check the page. From the heart.
Yes, as Daryl just said, that is a free thing that he just does because he loves music. He's a wonderful human being. We do need to keep him in our thoughts right now.
Yes. But he let me know that he did a count to see how many venues there are in Lubbock. And there, at that time, this was about 4 years ago, or in the surrounding community, it's like 76. So for all of you trying to get gigs, if one place doesn't work, try the next one. There's 76 venues to play. You can keep, Yes. So I have my 8 that are kind of like my favorites. I do a lot of private parties, a lot of corporate work, a lot of weddings. But I rotate between them. How I broke into getting like the gigs was my first kind of out performance was me and some buddies in high school entered the Battle of the Bands for the 4th on Broadway when I was like a junior. And we won that year. And part of the compensation was that you got to perform on the big stage for the big fireworks concert. And that was like 20,000 people. So that was like my first like, whoa, and then off I went. Started playing in clubs with that band. And, through my music studies at Tech, I've studied orchestral percussion. Being versatile is key. Don't be afraid to get out of your comfort zone, because if you can make it doing one thing, but if you can do more than one thing and get into different networks, your chances of starving go down significantly. Be a craftsperson. Whatever you're doing, be the best at it. My perspective through many paradigms is unique. A lot of structures don't work for me, so I've always been a person who's had to kind of find my own way. which has taught me to be resilient. And then really recognizing the good relationships, because the way I'm doing my thing is different than the way a lot of people are doing theirs. So breaking in on the local scene, getting the gigs, building the network. If you get in the network in Lubbock and keep a good reputation, it will support you. I am proof of that. Lubbock has paid my mortgage for many years, so I'm grateful. But the things that I do in Lubbock is because Lubbock is like home base. The Globe is my playground. So even though you see me operating in Lubbock, it's just because I was taught to grind. You work. If you book a gig a day, there's a gig every day. So I was taught to grind. So I do a lot of stuff around Lubbock. I do a lot of stuff for my community, work with some nonprofits with this guy and the Roots Historic Arts Council. Education-wise, we're starting a Cap Rock Jazz Academy, starting to teach some kids starting in January, so I could teach others to do what I'm doing
here.
from my perspective. But what I'm doing on like a national and global scale is through those relationships. So some guys that I met at Tech, they're like my musical brothers. Like it doesn't matter if we haven't seen each other in a year. From the first note, it's like we hadn't missed a beat. They live in New York. There is a strong Texas representation in New York. So,
And probably everywhere.
Yes, but I was surprised at how many Texas cats I ran into in New York. I'm like, come up here to find you. But the cool thing about the networking thing and being up there is we tour. They're based out of New York. I'm based out of Texas. But we do a lot of like the Colorado, Pacific Northwest, and of course like, the Eastern stuff, our Eastern scene. And through that, you get international travel. So it's all about relationships and being a craftsperson to whatever you're doing, be the best at it, unapologetically.
Yeah, and you hit on a key, the reputation.
Yeah.
Okay? What's the key to that? What's your job there?
My job is just do what you say you're going to do. Have fun. I mean, I get hired to play, so I'm playful.
Absolutely.
And I love...
And you show up.
Yeah,
Imagine that.
Yeah, and I get to do what I love to do, so it's not work.
I love it. Thank you, Joy. That's incredible. All right. All right, Holly. So you're running the Buddy Holly Hall. You're booking for this. This is a gorgeous facility. Those of you, if anybody hasn't been in it yet, go get a tour. It's absolutely stunning. You're obviously focusing, you're doing a lot of Broadway, you're doing a lot of national touring acts, but you don't just have that large hall. Tell me about the other potential opportunities there are over there, because you've got the smaller hall, you've got,
Yes, it's really an interesting place. I know it was, the architects called it a community living room, and that's what we are trying to do. And it's been an amazing journey, as I said, starting a building from scratch in a pandemic, and we're learning a lot of things. So bear with us as we learn. I loved working with Joy. It was really fun, and thank you for everything that you did to help us through some things that we were doing with Cap Rock Jazz that came out really great. So yes, we work with local groups. That's one of my favorite things to do. We have the Crickets Theater, which is a lot of people don't realize that's inside. It's a 400-seat theater, and it has really great rental rates for 501c3s. And we really try to work with the community as best we can in that space. That is also the space for Lubbock Independent School District. We're running programming constantly with them and UIL and looking for the next stars of Lubbock. It's real fun to watch the kids go out onto stage, and a lot of these kids would never have that chance. So we host a lot of school programs, not just Lubbock Independent School District, but other districts as well. We also have opportunities with our First Friday Art Trail, and we're going to be working with, I know Luca puts on that program, and we're really glad to be a part of it, and we want to try to do more with that. That's one of our goals. We've been opening it up every First Friday, trying to book different people. Also, we've had the children's choir and different groups out there at the Bird's Tail, and then if we don't have a show, tours for the community to come in and see it, because it's really a community. Even though it's a giant theater, it's a community theater. A lot of people didn't realize that when I first started, I think they do now, that it was the money was raised by the community. It's not city owned. And so we always try to keep that in mind on everything that we're doing. And it's a balance of booking the larger shows, but also giving artists the chance to perform, not only children, but other groups as well. And we will be refining that as we're moving forward, moving through this, hopefully putting the COVID thing behind us and getting back to some normalcy, to have areas such as the Crickets, the Bird's Tail, which is the outside portion. There's like a little teeny, it's not really an amphitheater, but we can do programming out there, and we plan to do that. And again, we have Grand Halls A and B, which are booked for wedding receptions or business functions. And with that, we've had local entertainment there at those events, and I need to know who everyone is. You know, that I ask Stacy sometimes, and we're just trying to get more people in our network, so that if we do have something that comes up, we can fulfill that and talk to people and hire that musician to come for these events. The last thing I was going to say, I've really enjoyed working with these bands, these national bands, because they have local components to them. And one of them would be, for example, George Lopez. When he came through, he's like, I need a mariachi band. I'm like, oh my gosh. Now, he wasn't paying on this, but it was a great platform to be able to be known. And I just picked up the phone for Lubbock Independent School District, and the kids came out, and they were amazing. Just kind of blew me away. He actually left them on for longer and went down, and they got to have that experience of performing on stage, and it was a sold out show. So it was really exciting. The other one that we did was Foreigner. And I asked Texas Tech choir, because they needed a choir, and so I kind of went to people that I knew, and they came out and performed with Foreigner. And then for Styx, it's coming up this Sunday, they say we love to support charities. And so on this first one, we're going to do Staging the Future, which is our Broadway program for underserved kids. The money that we collect for this Sunday will go to Broadway tickets for the underserved kids that don't get to go to Broadway. And so there's always these really neat opportunities. They're gonna raffle off a guitar that's signed by the group. And with that money, I'm going to give it to the LIPA program that funds the tickets for these kids to be able to see Broadway. So there's so many initiatives. So if I know who's out there, it really helps me to know where to pull from. We have all kinds of events.
Oh,
I hope that wasn't too long.
No, not at all. That's incredible. And one of the things that I think has been so joyful seeing that hall is I've gotten to record some of the events where some of the kids have gotten to play on that stage. And to watch their face when they walk onto the stage of 150 or 180 $million facility.
Oh, yeah, it's 150.
$150 million facility in their hometown, and they get to sing it. Wow.
I think the most exciting thing for me as a marketing person was when I first got here. I came before the pandemic. I chose to come here. I didn't run to Lubbock because there was a pandemic. I really wanted to be here, and I just fell in love with the facility. And I think some of the most amazing things that I've seen is just watching this evolve and trying to figure out who we're going to have first in the hall. Is it going to be Paul McCartney? I heard that rumor. And who's this? Is it going to be Elton John? Well, you know who it ended up being was the children from Lubbock Independent School District. It was perfect. I mean, that was our opener.
There's something right about that.
There was something really right about that. You know, it was we were 50% social distancing. We had them spaced 6 feet apart, masks. We were cleaning. We opened it at 25% really to get the 50%. But they got to perform. And that was huge because so many schools didn't get that. And not only did they get that, they got it in this giant facility. And so it was fun to see them with their little masks, you know, going out and looking in and seeing this giant hall. So it was the perfect opening.
Yes, phenomenal. Thank you guys for doing that.
Oh,
That's a
no, it
beautiful
was
thing.
our pleasure. It was really special. And believe me, Andrew Babcock, the head of that program, we would just say how wonderful that the youth can still play. It was huge for these kids. It was scary time, and they weren't in school, but we made it work.
Thank you. That's awesome. Well, we're going to open up the floor. I'll grab that. We're going to open up the floor to some questions. We've probably over time. I don't have a clock, which is a terrible thing for someone like me. Okay, yeah. Do we need to do questions or just let that be, or do we want to do that just as a networking thing? You call that, Stacy.
Well, we want to be sure we have enough time for Ryan and Jeremy to play for us. And
Agreed.
There's food outside.
Yeah.
We're a small enough group. I think we could network it. Everybody will hang around, if that's okay with everybody.
Yeah, so if you guys do have questions for anybody up here, everybody's super approachable. Just come on up, okay? We're going to bring on Ryan Spivey for some entertainment. So Ryan, come on up. We'll do a quick check on you real quick. And then I would be remiss if I didn't thank our wonderful, fearless leader, Stacy Keith, ladies and gentlemen. Lubbock Cultural Arts Foundation, who is moving the needle for Lubbock music and for up-and-coming artists. Thank you so much for what you do. And also, Lindsay, thank you guys for hosting this today in this awesome theater. I love this place. All right, thank you.
All right. Y'all enjoy and grab something to eat, too. So, do you need an introduction?